What's going on, everyone? First podcast for Ground Zero. We got myself, Phoenix, and Millzz. How you guys doing?
Pretty well, man. Glad to be
Fantastic.
here.
How we doing?
Doing well. So we're halfway through the season here, and we kind of wanted to just talk about how things are going. Uh, what stuck out to us, some surprises. Go through the top players in each stat category, and kind of go through some predictions as well for the playoffs. So we're going to start off by going into the AFC standings and just kind of seeing what we think will, happen going forward and some surprises that, have happened so far. So starting out with the AFC East, we got the Jets at 8-0, the Dolphins 4-4, the Patriots are 3-5, and the Bills are 2-6. So since Millzz is in this division, we'll go ahead and let Phoenix take over for this one. What stuck out to you so far about this division?
So I think the most surprising thing, looking at this AFC East, coming into it, I thought this was going to be one of our most competitive, tough divisions. Now, yes, Millzz is taking a rebuilding Dolphins team. We all know what kind of a struggle, and the fact that he put them into the playoffs in season one was fantastic. But again, it's always tough. It depends on how the game plays out. You get someone like the Bills, who should have been turning it around and increasing their level of play, and they've totally found a wall and struggled all the way through. So I think those two were really surprising to me. Now the Jets coming out 8-0, we knew that Mickey was a very, very, very good player, but I did not expect them to come out undefeated at this point. So that is something to watch. Of course, last but not least, Q. Now Q, there is a little bit of drama going on there with one of the losses that he took. And pending Commissioner Tools coming up, he will be awarded that victory potentially, because now that his record is 2 games negative below 500, maybe he'll want to keep the loss for a future draft pick. But I think that's kind of the biggest thing for me is the Jets being undefeated leading this division, surprising as hell.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Q kind of came out of nowhere at the end of last season and took that division title from, I think it was the Jets, because he beat him in the last week, if I remember. But
that was a crazy game.
Yeah, it was. But Jets, making themselves known so far, 8-0. Yeah, I do agree with the Bills going 2-6. That's very surprising to me. We all know Jelly's a great user, always has been. Usually is consistently making the playoffs. So I think he's already decided that this year is going to be a rebuilding year. So I'm excited to see what he does with that. But once he gets some young guys to develop to add on to the team he already has, I think that's going to be something to look for in the future.
And that's one other thing, too. If you look at the actual standings in this AFC East, the Jets lead the way, putting up 265 points. The Patriots put up 194. The Dolphins put up 160. But the Dolphins are actually really known for their defense. Millzz is a good defensive user, and we've seen that in the Ground Zero pass. But the Bills put up 223. They're the second highest scoring in this division. And I think what happens is Jelly gets in his own head, and early on he can play to a game plan. And a few of these games he's had a rough start, like a fumble recovery off the opening kickoff that goes for a touchdown against him, or something like that. He just starts hucking the ball, and we're seeing so many interceptions out of him. I think that's where he needs to lock in, is just ball control.
Yeah, you use that term "getting in your own head." I feel like I could say that for a good amount of users in this league. I think if most of the people just focus and just enjoy the game, do what they're comfortable with, and that's all it is. All it is. If you get in your own head, you start forcing stuff, you start playing from behind, and it just doesn't end up well.
I agree with that 100%.
So, yeah, that's kind of how we're feeling about the East so far. We'll get into the playoff predictions towards the end here. So we'll move on to the AFC West. You got Be Fine and the Chiefs at 5-3, Denver at 3-5, the Raiders at 2-6, and the Chargers at a 0-8 record to start off. So, Mills, I'll let you start off with this one. What do you think of this division so far?
Yeah, absolutely. Last season we obviously saw a dominating performance from the Kansas City Chiefs and Be Fine. But kind of what surprises me here is I'm pretty sure he's lost as many, if not more, as he did last season. But I think, we all expect him to maybe even win out, if not I mean, I'd like to take a look at his schedule here real quick. Just as he does play a 7-1 jump card in the Eagles next week. That'll be a fantastic game to watch. And the week after too, he plays Evil Mac and the Browns. But looking at his schedule after that, I think he's pretty much got it covered after that. So maybe 1 or 2 losses after that. I don't even know about that. So he still has the opportunity to finish the season at 13-3, and we know that man is a playoff team as well too. Looking at the ladder of the teams, the Denver Broncos this year at 3-5, halfway through the season. Let's see here. Looking at their divisional games this year, they have a victory week 3 over the Chargers. And it looks like that's the only. Week 1 they lost to the Chiefs 49-7. So I'm thinking obviously the Chiefs have this division on lock. It's just a question of if the Broncos or Raiders can squeak in a wild card spot. I think we all know that B-Fine probably will have this division on lock for the duration of Madden 21. But yeah, I mean that's really all I have for that. I really think that Lycan will get a win or 2 out of the Los Angeles Chargers. I know that he's really comfortable with that team, and he's making a lot of improvements over the past Maddens, and I think we've all been here to see it too. He's getting really, really comfortable with that team. And then the last team that I had not mentioned was the Las Vegas Raiders. They're sitting at a 2-6 record right now. I think, let me see, they've played the Broncos and Chargers. This past week he beat the Chargers 21-13, picking up a division win, and his other win also is within the division against the Broncos. So he's sitting at a 2-1 divisional record right now. And he's got a tough schedule coming up, playing some of the same teams that B-Fine is playing. But yeah, with my prediction going on with the rest of the season, I think the Kansas City Chiefs win this division and probably a top 3 seed in my opinion in the AFC.
Yeah, I think you pretty much nailed that there. I think we're all in agreement that B-Fine's gonna win that division with ease. I think we've definitely seen some improvement with. I think Denver has shown some improvement since the beginning.
Absolutely.
And yeah, Lycan, he's definitely shown that he can win some big games. I think he'll definitely squeak a few in there. But
and I think that factor too comes with it. I know Jade mentioned it before, but I think awareness with your quarterback, the actual rating within the game, and if you start throwing interceptions or getting hit and fumbling, I think that takes. I mean that moves a lot of the motivation inside the game too, and it actually, I think it affects like the AI of the players too, and it goes a long way within the game for sure.
Yeah, and talking about like the quarterback awareness too. Here's a note, and this is something I really wanted to key on, especially with this division. When you have B-Fine at the top of it, he's struggling a little bit. He's 5-3. Granted, if you look at his losses, he had a big loss to Waltz and the Giants. He had a big loss to the Baltimore Ravens, the AFC's #1 team at 9-0 right now. And he took a big loss to, I believe it was the Patriots in a very tight game. Kind of not playing his best football that we've known him to do. But at the same time, when you look at this division and you know what B-Fine can do,
absolutely,
I feel like he kind of is coasting at this point because he's not really too worried about it. And when you look at the numbers across the teams number 1 and 3 in the interception column belong in this division. The Chargers lead the way. They've thrown 31 interceptions 8 games into the season. They're averaging about 4 a game. And then, of course, the second team there is the Raiders. They've thrown 29. Now, the Broncos, you guys mentioned, have been getting a little bit better. They've only thrown 22. They're kind of turning it around. But when you look at the plus-minus of these teams, they're giving way too much up. And if you have a guy like B-Fine in your division and you're giving the ball away, you're never going to be able to beat him. And that's a big thing they got to work on.
Absolutely. I think it's really important to minimize your mistakes when you're playing a guy like that caliber.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
agree.
Moving on to probably the toughest division.
Yeah, this is the most
And
exciting division.
yeah, I'm
And
excited to talk about this one. The toughest division, I'd say, in this league, the AFC North. You got the Ravens at a solid 9-0. Can't get much better than that. The Browns at 6-1. The Bengals at 5-4, and the Steelers at 4-4. So no teams under 500 in this division. I'll go ahead and start this one. So obviously the Ravens at 9-0. They've definitely made themselves known. Like they're the team to beat right now. And Blink Squib is just having a field day with Lamar Jackson. It seems like throwing 32 touchdowns already through 9 games. So he's on pace to throw a lot. Oscar,
Yeah, I think
Evil
he's on
Mac
pace
with
for like
the
54.
yes, yeah, a lot. Evil Mac with the Browns. He's looking very solid after that trade he made for Deshaun Watson. Looking pretty comfortable with him so far. Winning some very important divisional games. Chuck, the Bengals at 5-4. I think we're all kind of surprised to see that. We know Chuck's capable of winning a lot of games.
yeah,
Beating
and
many good opponents. But
to that point though, with his 5-4 record, I think he's gone through the thick of his schedule, and I think the back end of his schedule is pretty. I wouldn't say easier, but more. He's more able to handle that back half of the schedule than he was at the front. And I think that the Cincinnati Bengals and with Chuck as the user is a very solid wild card team if he doesn't have the opportunity to win that division.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, he started out 4-0, so he shows there's a lot of promise with that team. So
Mhm.
just staying out of
Then
slumps.
he started running. I'll say one of the things about Chuck too, and this has gone since Chuck first joined our league. Chuck is one of the best user defenders we have, but
Absolutely.
Chuck also is a very one-dimensional offense right now, and I know he's working to improve that. And once he really gets comfortable and locked in with passing, I think Chuck's going to be probably on that tier up there with B-Fine and them once he can get that down. But until he figures out how to comfortably make his reads and pass the ball, and he relies heavily on the run game the way he has with Joe Mixon, I think that's a little bit more easy to stop than some players, and he's starting to discover that against some of these guys with the nasty run defenses. Because teams that have shut him down hard were the Ravens, the Jets, and then of course B-Fine kept him to 10 points, and I think that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, that's a pretty rough stretch. And also he's going through that quarterback change after sending Burrow to the Niners for Adrian Rodriguez. So he goes from Burrow, who's more of a pocket passer, to Rodriguez, who's more of a mobile quarterback. Got Truz as his X factor. So that's a big adjustment to make, especially when you're more of a run heavy offense and trying to adjust to and balance it out.
I think the main thing for him was I'm not sure if he was more comfortable with the pocket passer or having a 2-dimensional quarterback, but I think he's still in that feeling out process of Adrian Rodriguez. But I know he just did pick up that win last week, and it's going to be fun watching him down that back half stretch of his schedule.
Yeah, and then you got Donkey Teeth with the Steelers at 4-4. I mean, with that division, I think 4-4 halfway through the year is really not that bad. I mean, I'm not looking at his schedule at the moment, but he's put up some close games with in all of his losses as well, and he's right there on the outside of the wild card. He's actually currently in the 6th seed, but he is 0-3 with his divisional record, so that could come into play, going forward for fighting for a wild card spot. But I mean, he's shown he's definitely capable of winning big games too. So,
but here's another thing with a guy like Donkey Teeth too. Donkey Teeth is very hot and cold. I've noticed he's a very streaky player, and I mean, if you look at it, he had a really good game against certain opponents. Chuck shut him down, and then he scored more points against the Chiefs. Chuck and a lot of people did. He put up 21 points against B-Fine. Very next week, he nearly loses to Drunken Lycan, who's 0-8. So, I mean, it's one of those where it almost feels like he plays to his competition, and I think being in a tough division is good for him in that way, but at the same time, he's losing games or not gaining ground on games that he needs to in order to stay in this race.
Yeah, and going along with the AFC North, I feel like we said before, this is probably one of the most competitive divisions. I think that these 4 players are easily within the top 2/3 echelon of the league. going back to last season, they were battling out to about the last week, and that was really fun watching that pan out. But yeah, I think like what you said with the Steelers, they're kind of hot and cold, but when they're hot, and it's really fun watching him play for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with everything. So last division here, AFC, we haven't talked about the AFC South. So this is actually I agree. This is a very tight division. So 2 games between the top and the bottom. You got the Jaguars at 5-3, the Texans at 4-4, the Colts at 4-4, and the Titans at 3-5.
Yeah, this is a very interesting division, I think. With the Jaguars, we just put Roshi in there, correct?
Correct, yeah.
Okay,
we
so
have a
brand new user taking over the leader of the AFC South. I think we should probably just focus on the Texans, Colts, and Titans. I think just because we don't know too much about the Jaguars' new user.
Right. Yeah, that's
so we can start off with the Texans. You mentioned before they made that big trade with the Cleveland Browns. They picked up Baker Mayfield and Nick Chubb out of that. I played the Texans. I think it was week 3 or 4, and he really loved using Nick Chubb. He was really good with the user on defense as well. And he's a really solid user, I think. Our previous Jacksonville Jaguars user was very good, and that's where one of his losses comes from. I'm not really sure where the other 3. He sits at 4-4 currently.
Yeah, he took a stretch of the last couple games. He lost to the Rams. He lost to the Titans, the Cardinals, and then the former Jags owner. So I mean,
okay, so he started out 4-0, huh? Wow.
Oh wait, no, he also took Texans. I miscounted somewhere here. Oh, he beat the Rams. He lost to the Jets. He lost to the Jets.
So he started 3-1, and now he's 4-4.
And he had a huge victory over Q, and I thought Q, as the Patriots, again, his record surprises me because Q is a good player. But the Texans beat him 37-7 to open up the season.
So yeah, I'm noticing here from the point differential, he has 184 points and 236 points against with a 500 record. So in his losses, he's kind of losing big. So I think keeping it close is definitely going to be the focus going forward. I mean,
absolutely.
You want to make sure you get the early leads. And I think that's all the difference. If you're trailing, some people play totally different when they're trailing. I know I do sometimes. So
I do as well.
Yeah, exactly. It's tough because you want to balance your offense, but when you're trailing, you feel more inclined to pass it more, which can lead to more turnovers, which can lead to the bigger point differential.
And again, I just want to add that week 4 matchup when I played him. That was probably the most exciting game that I've played all year, to be honest. We took it to overtime. He's a very good user on defense, and that's what made it really challenging for me. But he's also utilizing his players that he traded for, incorporating them well in his offense. Moving down to the Indianapolis Colts too, I had an opportunity. I play this whole division. I think I've played everyone but the Titans so far. But the game I had with the Indianapolis Colts, he seems to love Jacob Eason. I know that he is starting him over the other 2 options at quarterback, and he's decided to develop him well. I know that he is also developing Jonathan Taylor well and using him in his offense a lot. He was a great offensive user as well. I think this whole division has a lot of great users, and that's what is making it really tight at the moment. This is going to be one of the divisions that is going to be really fun to watch down the line because everyone's really, on an even playing field. There's no, user that sticks out more than the other. So
not anymore. Not anymore.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point.
Yeah, those are usually my favorite types of division. Just kind of like it's very unpredictable. It makes it more exciting to watch, instead of those one-sided ones where you're like, oh yeah, this person's gonna win every year.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the last team that we have is the Tennessee Titans at 3-5. I haven't gotten a chance to play the Tennessee Titans yet. I know the user played really well last year, and in Madden 20 as well with T. White. I don't know if you guys have gotten a chance to see him play this season.
I have not seen him play this season. I'm looking at his record right now, and he had some really interesting losses. Like he took a big loss to Brumby, took a big loss to the Jaguars, and then he had a fairly close game with Mickey, and then a decent loss to the Bills. But then other teams like the Rams, he blows out. He has a close loss to the Colts. He had a pretty big win on the Texans. So I mean, it's all over the place with this guy.
Yeah.
And I know coming into this season, he was advertised as one of the best guys when he got added to the league last season. Now, granted, he took over the Falcons team that I built up, and he basically ran them straight into the playoffs the last season there pretty easily. So
yeah,
I don't know. You guys know more about this than I do.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was going off of too. I think in Madden 20 he was a force to be reckoned with. I think he played really well with that Falcons team, and I'm not sure if it was 1 or 2 seasons that he played with them, but I know he made playoffs every single time he did. And I think maybe it was the transition into teams. I know that you have a lot of offensive weapons with the Falcons throwing the football, and with the Tennessee Titans, it's kind of polar opposite. So maybe him trying to fit into that scheme, with rush first instead of pass first. But I know T. White is a great user. And I know last season, I'm not sure do you guys remember what place that he finished in the AFC South last season?
I do not, but I can look it up while we keep talking.
Yeah, for sure. But I'm not really sure what he placed in last year at the AFC South. But I obviously know that he is a great user, in his past with his different teams. I think maybe it's just, what a lot of us experienced switching over from 20 to 21 or switching teams in 21 that may have different schemes.
He finished he finished 5-11. Yeah.
Okay. See, that's what's weird is because that's like not him, not normal, and he's a fantastic user. I think it's just maybe trying to get in the swing of things with a different based offense. But yeah,
and the reference point is he went from an 11-5 Falcons team.
Yeah, exactly.
In the first season, and then he started before the reset at 6-2 when we did the free. So I mean, he was what 17-7.
Yeah, that's fantastic. But yeah, I think the AFC South is really going to be a fun one to watch going down the stretch. They have a lot of divisional games left, and it's going to be cool to see the new Jacksonville Jaguars owner step into this role. He's been in leagues with some of our guys that are in another league, so they know his play style. But it's going to be cool to see how it pans out. He's got a 1-game lead coming in to the halfway turn, but we'll see. It's going to be a really fun thing to watch.
Yeah. All right, so we'll move on to the NFC. So just going down the list. So the NFC East, you got the Eagles at 7-1, Giants 6-2, Cowboys at 4-4, and the Washington Football Team at 3-5. So I'll go ahead and let you guys take this since I'm in this division.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Philadelphia Eagles posted a 7-1 record. Let me check their schedule. I haven't gotten a chance to see Jump play that much this year. Noah, have you gotten a chance to play him yet this year, or is that towards week 15?
I play in week 15 and 17. So
wow, that's going to be really those are going to be very big games.
So the interesting thing, looking at this top while you're looking over stuff here, looking at the top of this division, the Eagles at 7-1, but they're doing this entirely behind their defense. Now remember, they brought in one of our best defensive corners or defensive players during the keeper phase with Isaiah Ness.
Okay.
But defensively, they're top 4 in points allowed, top 3 in total yardage, and 3rd in pass yards allowed. Across offense, he's between 17th and 24th, so he's not really doing a whole lot offensively. It's his defense that is really driving. And then when you compare him with, say, the 6-2 Giants, and again, those late games are going to be really critical for them. The Giants, on the other hand, are very, very heavy on the points. They're the 3rd highest scoring offense, They're really balanced because they put up good yardage on the ground and in the air. And then defensively, they're really good at stopping points and stopping yards. So it's going to be a really tough challenge if the Eagles can't score points against this Giants team.
Absolutely.
Now, the Cowboys and the football team, we both know they like to run. It's a little bit more questionable. I know Scott mentioned he's been having a lot of struggles this season, and it's taken away some of his drive. And I think we're starting to see that now starting to come through because he's starting to lose games big that probably would have been kept close had he been fully engaged.
Yeah, and then I'm just going to swing it back to the Eagles' schedule as I've been looking over it. He's only scored over 30 points 3 times. And that's against the 0-8 Chargers, the 3-5 Buccaneers, and the 4-4 Cowboys, which he just reached 30. And then going off of what you're saying about the Washington football team, this kind of topic, they actually had a really close game week 5. I'm not sure if either one of you were able to watch that, but that ended at 28-23. And I know that, like you said, he relies a lot on his defense. I'm kind of excited to see him play the New York Giants because I know how high-powered his offense is. Or high-powered his offense is, sorry. Let me just take a look back. So the Eagles are 7-1, the Giants are 6-2, Cowboys come in at 4-4, and the Washington football team comes in at 3-5. Let's take a look at the New York Giants schedule. And like you said, that offense is very insane, ranking 3rd in the league in points scored, 4th in total yards. And I know that offense backed by Saquon Barkley and 3rd in the league in rushing. And I think with Waltz, when he wins big. He's had a lot of high-scoring games: 44-7 against the Rams, 44-21 against the Cowboys, 40-11 against the football team, and this past week 35-6 against the Panthers. So when he's hot, and I think the losses that he's taken were kind of out of his control. I would say not 100%, obviously, but with Madden and fumbles and morale with quarterbacks and things like that. Sometimes that stuff starts out your fault, but then it kind of gets out of your control. I think that Week 6 matchup with him and the Packers could have definitely gone the other way, 100%. I think that game literally came down to like one play at the end where it was just a heave and caught it and ran. I think the Packers ran out of bounds at like the 1 yard line and ended up trying to waste some time in scoring. You gave him a few seconds to heave the ball, but we know how Hail Marys go in Madden. And I'm trying to see his other loss.
It was some bomb.
Oh, okay.
Phoenix.
Oh yeah, that's right. 45-35. I'm gonna click in on that game because it's home to our own Phoenix and Waltz.
The Matt Ryan
play.
game.
Right.
That was a rough game for him. He took a quarterback injury early. He had a fumble early. I mean, it was just a struggle bus for him.
Yeah, it's seeing Noah Floyd, 19 of 24 for 340 yards, 2 touchdowns. And it is showing Matt Ryan as the leading passer he went 14 of 18 for 240 and 2 touchdowns and 1 interception. I'm not really sure how that game played out. You guys can kind of explain it. I remember watching it, but don't really remember the details. But I'm sure
the big thing was I had gone up by a touchdown late, and then on his very next drive, Saquon Barkley with his fantastic carry rating put the ball on the ground. I was able to kick a field goal, make it a 2-possession game, and then Matt Ryan totally duffed a pass, and that was picked off, and that led to like a kneel out. So it was all in a matter of maybe 5 plays to where I scored a touchdown, I get the ball back, I kick a field goal, I pick it off again, and it's over.
Oh, yeah, it was a really fun game. I mean, it was even with Daniel Jones getting injured for me, I was doing just fine with Matt Ryan. So it was a fun game all around, and
Absolutely.
In the end, I got outplayed, and I mean, it was just how it went.
You got out maddened.
Yeah, exactly.
I will say though, something with this division before anything else, if you look at these points against, man, look at this division. Eagles 213-4, 146 against. Giants 273 to 154. The Cowboys 246 to 188. Yeah, the football team struggled, but they had 3 games where they gave up 60, 50, and 50 points. So
yeah,
I mean,
it's like with the football team, when they win, they win big, but when they lose big.
Right.
It's kind of one-sided either way, because you look at his week 1, he won 48-13, and but he's losing some games 41-21 and 40-11 and 60-25. But then turns around week 9 and he wins 51-28. I think it's literally hot and cold with him. His offense ranks top 10, but his defense is literally like 29th or 30th in points scored. So it's kind of just what football team shows up, on that certain day.
I agree.
But wrapping up the NFC East, I think, no disrespect to the Cowboys or the football team, but I think it's just going to be really heavily on that week 15 and week 17 between those 2 games. I know that the Giants and Eagles, I don't know what conference you guys, what division that you guys play in similarity this year. I think
we play the AFC West and the NFC South.
Okay, so I know Jump Carter still has to play B-Fine week 10. That's going to be a huge game, and
he also has Mini coming up too.
I got to play Estrada still too, so I got some tough games.
Yeah, that's going to be a big game for him, and that's going to be a big game for you. But ultimately, I think that that week 15 and week 17 is going to make or break whoever wins the NFC East. And I think still whoever second place is easily going to get a wild card spot, because I know you sit at 5th right now and he's sitting at 2nd. But yeah, I think the top 2 teams in the NFC East are that for sure going to make the playoffs.
Agreed.
All right.
Alrighty.
So NFC West. So this is also a pretty close division. You got the Niners and the Seahawks both tied for first at 5-3. The Arizona Cardinals at 3-5, and the Los Angeles Rams at 3-6. So, Lil Mac kind of struggled last year, so seeing him at 5-3 is kind of surprising. But I mean, we all know Lil Mac's capable of winning games from Madden 20, and maybe that trade for Joe Burrow has sparked that. Maybe more comfortable with them, because I know he didn't seem very comfortable with Rodriguez and his mobility. He's not used to that.
So, he's made it clear that he enjoys pocket passers more than that dual threat quarterback position.
Yeah, so I'm excited to see how he does with Burrow going forward and that insane 49ers defense.
Since he acquired Burrow, he's beaten the Rams 7-42, the football team 60-25, and the Cardinals 44-14. So he's putting up big points since he got.
Yeah, big time.
Well, looking at that 49ers Cardinals matchup, it's showing Tyrod Taylor. So I'm not sure if Joe Burrow.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, Joe Burrow did get suspended for that Cardinals game.
Oh, correct. I forgot about that.
Evil laugh.
Well, let's look at that football team victory. Joe Burrow, 24 of 32, 384 yards and 4 touchdowns.
Yep, there you go.
He did throw 3.
True, he did. But I think it's easier to find your groove with quarterbacks that you're more comfortable with. And going back to that Los Angeles Rams game where he won 42-7, he 18 of 21, 178 yards and 4 touchdowns. So I think he's kind of locked in with that quarterback. He's on a 3-game winning streak. He started at 2-3. He's now 5-3.
I mean, he's already played 4 divisional games too. He's 3-1 in the division. So getting those divisional wins out of the way already is very big going forward.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it looks like, has he played the Seahawks yet? Do you have the schedule pulled up?
Yeah, I do. I don't.
They played the first time when he was using a mobile quarterback.
Yeah, week 3, and the Seahawks won that 35-7.
Okay, so his only divisional loss was to the Seahawks, who he's tied with. So that matchup when they face the second time is going to be very big for them.
And that's
I will say something
2
to look
weeks.
forward to here is the rest of his schedule. He's got the 3-5 Titans, the 1-7 Lions. He's got the Seahawks, the 4-4 Texans, the 5-3 Jags under new ownership, the Packers, the Bears, the Cardinals. So it seems like he's got a fairly easy schedule coming in terms of win-loss records.
Yeah,
absolutely. I think Fleischman is a very, very good user with the Seattle Seahawks. I know he's very familiar with that team, and he's shown success even in the prior season too. So, but the big thing that I see here is Cardinals at 3-5 and the Rams at 3-6. Those aren't teams that you can sleep on necessarily.
no, not at all.
I know that
Rams are missing their biggest defensive tool.
absolutely.
True.
I know the Cardinals has a great user in Brumby. I think kind of looking at some of these games too. He beat a really good Texans user 2 weeks ago, but then he turned around and lost to the 49ers 44-14. I think that was probably just an off game for him. That's not really like he would do usually. I know that he's a much better user than that. And he's shown in the prior season too when he fought for a chance at winning this division last year. And going to the Los Angeles Rams, they have a lot of weapons. And I know that going down his schedule, we can look. He did have a very big loss to the Titans in Week 8, 44-10, but he turned around and won 38-14 against the Jaguars. And looking at his schedule going forward, like you said before, with the schedules with below 500 records, I think he only plays 1, 2, 3 teams that have above 500 records in the remaining weeks. So I think he has a really good shot at upping his record. And he has, I think Week 12 and Week 14, when the Rams and Cardinals face off, those are going to be really big within the division. I think those games are going to decide, either 2-3 or 2-1, because I really think that these users should be towards the top. I know that the Seahawks are a really good user as well. I think this is going to be another really cool division to watch towards the end of the season too, because I know all of these users are capable of winning this division. It's just kind of, who's playing well at the right time, and I think a lot of these users are hot. They're really hot when they're hot, and they're cold when they're cold too. So it's gonna again.
It's crazy
it's gonna be
how we have such good users that we have guys like Floppy and Brumby who are 3-5 and 3-6.
still
and
have
yet
a
they're
chance to
still,
win the division.
you put them in another league and they're a guaranteed playoff every single
Yeah,
season.
absolutely.
It's pretty cool, to be honest. I mean,
And with their 3-5 and 3-6 record, like I just said, they still have a chance to win this division.
Right? That's crazy because there's still so
plenty
much
of
to play.
time.
and
Absolutely.
if you think of it, like looking from their point of view, it's gotta be frustrating because you know what you're capable of, but this league is so competitive. When you're putting up that kind of a record, you just kind of think to yourself like, "Am I even that good?" But they need to realize like they're definitely capable of winning their division and more. So
Absolutely.
just keeping the positivity and just enjoying the game as much as they can, and I think
Sticking to what they're good
Yeah.
at too. Yeah.
Yeah,
I know that the Rams traded a lot of key pieces away this offseason for more youth and more picks. So I'm not sure what their plan going forward is, but I know for a fact that they can be a playoff team if full potential put forward.
Yeah. All right, so here's a more surprising division we can talk about here, the NFC North. So leading the NFC North, we got the Minnesota Vikings at 5-3, followed by the Packers at 3-5, the Bears at 2-6, and the Lions at 1-7. So not the most competitive division so far this season, but I mean, as we know, all these users are, good, and they can definitely beat anyone. And I think what sticks out to me the most is seeing the Bears at 2-6 when they got, I think there was a 3 seed last year in the playoffs. I know Kevin I believe he's missed a couple of games due to work and traveling, so I mean, nothing he can do there. But I mean, we know he's definitely capable of making the playoffs, winning that division. So I think even with the 2-6 record, that's a team to look out for. When he's only, he's 3 games out of first with half the season left, so that's definitely doable as long as he's able to, get all of his games in, play up to his potential. But I mean, the Vikings. How about the Vikings? I mean, we haven't seen much out of Deke since Madden 21 came out. His first season with the Vikings was pretty rough, But he acquired Michael Thomas in the offseason, and has taken the Vikings to an over 500 record halfway through the year, leading the division. Currently in the 4th seed of the
He has as many
NFC.
wins. He ended last season at 5-11. He's already got 5 wins on this year. So.
Yeah, that's pretty cool to see. I mean, you love to see the improvement of these users like that, and making the moves to fit what they need, and it shows.
He's also put up some really impressive wins. That first week he beat Lil Mac and the 49ers 35-23. He's also put up some really close games against the Browns and the Bengals out of that tough division too. So it's kind of cool to see him flip the script and win as many games as he did last season, only halfway through the season this year. It's gonna be really cool to see what he can do with this team with the new additions.
Yeah, I mean, you got Coach at 3-5. Coach beat me. I mean, he's a good user. I mean, it showed, and he's beaten some good users overall, and he made the playoffs last year, snuck in at the wild card.
Coach is one of my favorite stories too, if you look at it, because when we started in Madden 20, Coach was near the bottom of the league in terms of win-loss, and he was using some rough teams, but I mean, he was maybe winning 3 games a season, 2 games a season, 3 games a season. But then he gets his Packers, and now competing in his division for playoffs every single season. I think that's so cool.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think going back to the Bears too, seeing the dominating season that he had last season within his division and getting that 3 seed. His 2 wins this year were pretty dominant when he beat the Rams 37-0 and he beat the Cardinals 31-17. And I think all of his games other than that are pretty close. He had a tough battle with Chuck week 1 where he only lost by a field goal. He kept the Eagles to a 2-score game. When he matched up against the Vikings week 5, he only lost by a touchdown. So I think going forward, after this next week when he plays the 6-1 Browns, I think they're now 7-1. I think they just beat the Lions. His schedule is very division based. That next 3 weeks, 11, 12, and 13, he'll play the Packers, Lions, and Vikings. I think that's going to be really huge for him. The only really tough game I would say that he has left on his schedule would be the 6-2 Saints at week 14. But I feel like if he secures, 2, if not all 3 of those division wins weeks out, he still has a great chance to win that division, and I know that he's capable of doing that.
Yeah, and going down to With as well. 1-7. With's got the Lions, so not the best team to start out with. So he's trying his best to put the pieces together to get some W's in there. So I'm looking forward to see how he does.
Yeah, we're always
what he does with that team going forward. So
the other thing with Witt too is if you've been watching him, Witt has actually been playing a lot better football. But he reminds me a lot of what Jelly's been encountering, where they play very well, but any sort of hitch, and they start getting really out of their game plan. They start throwing those deep 50-50 shots, which are dangerous in this game. And I think if they just settle down, lock it in a little bit, I think you'd see them compete just as well as anyone else.
Yeah, after right before we started this episode 1, I was watching him playing the Cleveland Browns, and he got to a great start. I think it was like a 14-3 to start, but the game ended 37-14. I think if some mistakes are made, and I think that goes a lot for a lot of us in this Madden league. If we kind of get in our own heads and start making mistakes, and like I said before, I think a lot of the morale within the players and the AIs. If you start making mistakes, it's going to take a toll on you quite literally, and sometimes it puts things out of reach for you, even if you wanted to, change it. Because I think morale and awareness within your quarterback goes a long way too. If you start making mistakes, it's just kind of like, a domino effect in the end.
That's a fact.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we'll go into our last division here. So won't be much to talk about because this division has gone through a couple owner changes. So the 2 teams we really want to focus on here are the Falcons and the Saints.
Mm-hmm.
Both going 6-2. The Saints with the big win over the Falcons this week to even up the standings. So I mean, the Buccaneers at 3-5 and the Panthers at 0-8. So the Panthers are out of playoff contention. I'm excited to see what our new user Boogie does with them because we know he's a solid user. He's been in our league before, so I think he'll do well with that team going forward, especially getting a good draft pick. We got DM Punk back with the Bucks. He showed that he can win games with them. So and how OP that Bucks offense is. So I mean, he's capable.
Imagine if he got Antonio Brown.
Yeah, right. But so I guess what we'll mainly talk about here is the Falcons and the Saints. I mean, both teams I expect to make the playoffs.
Absolutely.
I mean, I don't think they play one more time this year, so that's going to be huge.
Yeah. Week 12.
Okay.
It's going to be a very good matchup. I think going off the Falcons schedule, next week they have a pretty tough matchup with the 8-0 Jets. But other than that, I think, let's see, week 12, like we just said, that's going to be a key matchup versus the Saints. And then week 13, the 7-1 Eagles. So these 3 out of the next 4 weeks, he's going to have a pretty tough challenge. But I think ending out of the last 4 weeks, he won't face a team that's over 500. So I think, if something goes wrong, maybe a confidence booster the last 4 weeks going into the playoffs. Like you said before, these top 2 teams are going to make the playoffs regardless. I think. Let's see. The Falcons are the number 1 seed in the NFC right now. I don't know if that'll change with the Eagles being 7-1, switching that up top.
Yeah, it'll change once we advance.
Okay. But I think, to be honest, I think the winner of this division is at lowest the 2nd seed, and the runner-up will either be the 5 or 6 seed. I don't think they drop any lower than that. Both of these teams have fantastic users. The Saints winning 2 Super Bowls before this. Falcons showing that they definitely could win a Super Bowl. I think, these 2 teams have at least, 2 of the top 10 users in the league, if not 5. But yeah, it's going to be really exciting to see the Saints and the Falcons play again in 3 weeks. And what really excites me too is seeing the Falcons play the next 3 of the next teams out of the 4 weeks. That's going to be their most tough part of their schedule. I'm excited to see what they do with the next 4 weeks.
Yeah, same with the Strata. Strata's got some fun matchups coming up. I mean, so he plays the football team next week, and then he's got the Panthers. So I mean, those opponents. I mean, you never know what could happen because, like I said, Boogie's new. He's good. So, then he's got the Falcons week 12. Then he's got the Giants week 13. So that'll be a fun matchup. He's got the Bears week 14, which we all know Kevin is capable of winning big games. He's got the Dolphins week 15. That'll be a fun one to watch. And then the Cowboys week 16, Seahawks week 17. So most of his opponents are 500, if not better. And, games that are just anything can happen. So I'm excited to see how this ends up.
Yeah, and I kind of take note back to that week 6 game. Where he played the Jets. That was a final of 34-10 in favor of the Jets. We kind of see, looking back on the stats, his quarterback, Love, went 11 of 26, 162 yards, a touchdown, but he did throw 4 interceptions. So like I said before, I think we've said it about 5-10 times. I think that morale and, awareness within your quarterback, it's kind of like a domino effect. If you make one mistake, it's easier to make another. And, that plays a big role in this Madden, at least I've seen. I know both of you have probably seen the same exact thing.
Yeah, Madden momentum is no joke, man.
Right, exactly. And we said it about 10 times, but I'll keep emphasizing it the rest of the season for sure.
Yeah. So I think we'll save for the next podcast. We'll talk more about stats, player stats, and kind of who stuck out this season, and big surprises and stuff. Also, we'll probably save the playoff predictions for towards the end of the season as well. Probably maybe 3 or 4 or 5 weeks from now when it's closer. We'll go ahead and wrap up. Let's end this we'll go one team that is a dark horse for us going forward. What is one team? We'll go one team in each AFC and NFC that to look out for and that could maybe sneak into the playoffs this year.
Okay.
That is tough.
Yeah, that is. It's.
All right, I'll go ahead and start. I'll let you guys think it out. But just from No, that's all
Go
good.
ahead, sir.
Just from looking at it, the teams that stick out to me, honestly, Millzz 4-4 Dolphins. They're currently listed as the 9th seed in the AFC at 4-4. And we know what Millzz is capable of with the Chiefs. And I don't want to sound biased because he's in this conversation with me, but 7-9 last year, rough first season with the Dolphins, getting used to the team. I think you're going to sneak in and make the playoffs. I mean, there's a lot of 500 teams right now, but I definitely think you'll be one of the ones to sneak in. NFC, I think Brumby and the Cardinals is going to sneak into that 7 seed at probably around 9-7 ish. That's what it's looking like right now. But at the 3-5 record, I think he's going to go on a nice run here, and I think he'll sneak in. But just looking at the standings, those are the two teams that stick out to me.
Jaden, you want to go next?
You can go if you'd like.
Yeah, okay, for sure. So my team from the AFC would definitely have to be the Cincinnati Bengals. I know that, like I said before, I think Chuck has gone through the harder half of his schedule. And I think, like I said before, the only really tough challenge that he's going to face on this back half of the schedule is the 9-0 Ravens. And I know that he's played him close every time that he's played him. I'm not sure. I think last season and this season, I think the Ravens are 3-0 against him, but I know that those games are always fun to watch, and he makes them really close. But other than that, he only plays one team that's over 500 on the back half of his schedule. So I think even if he does lose that game against the Baltimore Ravens, I still think that he can finish at a solid 11-5 record and make a wild card spot. I think for sure that he doesn't go anything less than 10-6. But yeah, and I think at least 3 out of the 4 teams in that AFC North division make the playoffs. But I for sure think that this Chuck and the Cincinnati Bengals make the playoffs out of the AFC. And with the NFC, Waltz, I agree with you. I think Brumby and the Arizona Cardinals are definitely going to squeak in a playoff spot there. Like I said before, with that division, I think it's very level with skill and user. I know that they all can be really hot when they're hot and cold when they're cold, but I think that viewing last season, what Brumby can do with these Cardinals, and looking at his back half of the schedule too, there's some divisional games that are going to be really key down the stretch. He does play the Rams twice in week 12 and 14. And he also plays the 49ers twice, he just played the 49ers in week 9. But that week 17 game against the 49ers is going to be really huge for him. But all in all, I think my 2 dark horses are definitely going to be the Cincinnati Bengals and the Arizona Cardinals.
I think I'm going to take this a little bit of a different here because I kind of agree with you guys on your dark horses. And also, I think we're dealing with the expanded playoffs this season, right? They've implemented that in the game now.
Yep, 3 wild cards.
So I think what I want to look at then is I want to call out 2 teams I think are going to fall out of the playoff race. And the first one, this one might be contentious because it's going to be really interesting. But I think we see the Cleveland Browns fall out of the playoff race coming forward. Now the Browns are coming in at 7-1, right? And they're in one of the toughest divisions. But they have 2 matchups to come with the Ravens. And they also get to face off with the Chiefs. And then the last matchup they play is against the Steelers, who they scored closely too. But moving forward, they have one of the toughest remaining schedules to go. They do have a couple of games that should be easy. But considering what we all agree on with Chuck sneaking his way in there and knowing what the Steelers are capable of, I think I'm going to be a little bit of a negative Nancy here. And we're going to say the Browns. The Browns are going to fall out of the playoff race.
Oscar, bro, if you're listening to this, prove us wrong. Prove us wrong, bro.
Oscar gets a call out. Prove me wrong. All right. Secondly, in the NFC, because of how tight the divisions are, we know that the NFC South and the NFC East are basically holding the top 2 seeds right now, and they also have the top 2 wild cards. Now, looking at the last spot, I know that the Niners and the Seahawks are tied, and the Seahawks currently hold the lead. But the Seahawks have a tougher schedule coming up because they do have their showdown. And the Seahawks also have Estrada on their schedule to come. So I would not be surprised if we see Vibe and the Seahawks fall out of the playoff contention as well. That's where I'm going to leave it. Seahawks, Browns, both of those guys don't make it in.
Prove them wrong. Prove them wrong.
Prove them wrong, gentlemen.
All right. Well, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap this episode up. We should be back here in a few weeks with an updated episode on the standings. We'll talk a little more about that, kind of get our playoff predictions in there. Maybe some MVP predictions, award predictions, just kind of go through some stats. Maybe have some different people on the podcast as well. This is our first episode, so we're just going to kind of wing it as we go and improve as we can. So with that being said, do you guys have any closing remarks?
The only thing I have to say is best of luck, guys. I appreciate everyone pushing forward. Make sure you guys keep track. We do have some new rules in play, so just make sure to pay attention to those because, as you guys have seen, we are not going to tolerate a lot of the goofiness anymore, especially now that we have a good core and we have some waitlist guys. So.
Yeah, and I'd like to add, going off of Jade, best of luck to everybody, and we couldn't do it without you guys. Very thankful for your drive and dedication to the league. It's what keeps it afloat too. And we're also thankful for you working with us and your understanding as well. So best of luck for these teams. Like Noah said, I think we'll be back in 2-3 weeks real time. I think that's probably like what?
Probably towards like week 14-ish.
Yeah. And then back with playoff predictions and things of that nature. But yeah, best of luck to you guys, and wish you the best.
One more thing to add, I try to make this pretty clear in the Discord. If you guys have any questions regarding rules, something that confuses you, please ask. We don't want to have to do something like suspension or warning, and you guys be like, "Well, I didn't know that." Yeah. If you don't know, ask us. We're not trying to be the bad guys here. And
Absolutely.
we don't want to be put out to be the bad guys. Yeah, we know Phoenix loves to be the bad guy here, but I like to be a good guy, so I want to keep that rep going. But yeah, so that'll wrap it up for us. We'll see you guys on the next episode, and we'll talk to you later.
Take it easy.
Deuces.